Two reasons why I started the YouTube channel. Number one, I saw like an influx on YouTube of just meaningless content. I didn't really see. Things have been good, just kind of watching a lot of white identity extremism occur and not be labeled as such. But otherwise, things are great.
Do black men have more power than black women?
Of course they do.
Why are black people so weak that they allow this to happen?
Well, I wouldn't say the question would be why are black people so weak. The question would be is why is white supremacy so diabolical and savage?
Like I got time for that.
If you're looking for an easy and convenient way to find new and used vehicles in your area, go to carmarshal.com, where they have an inventory of over 100,000 new and used vehicles. You shop and they'll negotiate at carmarshal.com. Click the link in the description box to start looking for your new car today.
Hey guys, I wanted to do this video because I did a video about this back in 2016. And this was a study that came out. It was done by Rutgers University, which they're saying is the university that has the highest rate of interracial dating. Now, the reason I'm doing some commentary on this again is because I have been in numerous debates with black men where on YouTube they'll talk about the lack of desirability of black women. They'll say that black women is on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of desirability, and they will sit here and tell you that black women have a low rate of interracial dating, not because they are desirable, but because they're undesirable, not because they have racial loyalty, but because other races of men just don't want them. So the most prevalent form of interracial dating is actually between black men and white women. A lot of people will say that, well, Asian women and white men are the biggest interracial daters. But again, I believe that Asian is not a race. You have white Asian, then you have black Asian. Then the reality of it is white men are not getting with dark-skinned Asian. They're getting with the lighter white-skinned Asian. So I don't believe that's interracial dating. So if you throw that out, you will have black men leading with the highest rate of interracial dating. They definitely, certainly do, regardless to whether we include Asian and white men. And of the black community, black men have always been and still are leading in that. But I'm doing this because I just was in a discussion on George's channel, and I think that somebody once again brought up this lack of desirability for black women, because unfortunately we live in a society where our men don't see that it's beneficial to elevate the women that they come from. They feel like it's more beneficial to elevate the women who give birth to their oppressors. So I want to go over this study, and then there's another study that I want to go over too in terms of black women, because black women are said to be the least desirable. No other man wants them, right? So we're going to go over this study really quickly. So it says 87% of white women want to have sex with black men, according to a new study. Now, understand, when we talk about desirability, we're not just talking about on a sexual basis, because I've already admitted that sexually black men are the most desired. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Black men are extremely sexy. Obviously, if you had a pick from sexually black men and other races of men, clearly you would want to be in sexual situations with black men. Nobody would ever dispute that. Actually, I've had other black men tell me that that wasn't true, but I've already known that that was true because I think black men are extremely sexy. So let's get into the story. It says, a study from Rutgers University in New Rochelle, New Jersey, has concluded that approximately 87% of American white women have had or fantasized about having sexual relations with African American males. The study was conducted by the Sexual Sociological Endowment in the Cultural History Department at Rutgers University. Now, it says the study reveals that a whopping 87% of white women dream of having sex with a black man, and in some cases, many already have. Interestingly enough, the same study says only 13% of white women said that they would marry or raise a family with a black man. Now, that's very telling, because what it tells you that as a sexual object, they do desire black men, but as a partner and a viable mate, they don't. And that actually corroborates studies that a number of different people did. I forgot what his name was, the man who did the Is Marriage for White People? And I believe the author of that book was Ralph Richards Banks. He also did some commentary where he's explaining why black men are not viable mates for any women. And I believe this Rutgers study actually confirms that.
Ralph Richard Banks is the author of the book, Is Marriage for White People? And Rick, I have read your book, and I thought it was a very courageous effort. So you tell me if I've got your basic thesis correct. And that is that African-American women are becoming more successful, more competent, more advanced in their education and training, basically than most black men. And those African-American men that are keeping up with them are so few that the marketplace basically determines that they don't have to settle down and they can date as many people as they want. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. I should emphasize, though, that the advancement of women is a good thing, right? The problem is really that black men are faring so poorly. And that's true in terms of education, employment, incarceration.
And so, okay, so you're blaming education, incarceration, and education as to why black men are being held back. Is that correct? Now, I want to emphasize, black women are black women are flourishing, and which is fantastic. But we have our African-American men sort of not. And you know, I got to tell you, Rick, the one hot button in talking to my African-American female friends was when you talk about the issue of the men having too many options in the marketplace. And by the way, not just successful black women, but also white women they can date, that they don't feel any motivation to settle down. Now, Rick, the tower behind you is the Stanford University clock tower, right? You're a Harvard professor, a Harvard law professor, excuse me, a Stanford law professor.
No.
Right?
Okay, that's important.
Yes, you're a Stanford law professor. But I did want to give the shout out to my friends up at Stanford before I go on and bring in the relationship expert, Demetria Lucas. Now, Demetria, he's not saying that there are no available African-American men. He's saying that the numbers, though, just favor those guys to be players. It just creates the marketplace, the market forces create the players that are out there. Is he right?
Well, you can't deny the numbers, Dr. Drew. The numbers are what they are. Like when Rick was speaking about the college campuses, yes, they're 2 to 1. You can go on any HBCU college campus and you would see that, you know, it kind of looks a little more not favorable for the female population there. But the numbers definitely don't lie. There are more women who are educated and who are doing numbers-wise, financially better than their African-American male counterparts.
All right, let's keep taking calls. I've got Roland in California. What do you got for us, Roland?
Hey there, Dr. Drew.
Hey, Roland.
Professor Banks. You know, here's what I believe. I do believe that marriage is for everyone, but most blacks have had a rough start. You know, initially, when you talk about slavery, black men were taken away from the family. Then you talk about the 1960s, the Welfare Reform Act, where the men were allowed, you know, were not allowed in the house. Now, as Professor Banks said, I do agree with him where he says that education and incarceration is a problem. So now, do you believe that loyalty and history plays a problem in this?
Okay, and Roland, I'm gonna just paraphrase that. I think, and I will throw it first to Professor Banks about whether history played a role in this, and then to Demetria, what about our families these men are coming from? Professor Banks, go right ahead.
So let me just say that the marriage decline has many components, but one of the key facts is that through the middle of the 20th century, marriage rates were pretty comparable for blacks and whites. Black women were as likely as white women to be married in 1950. Then there was something that happened in the latter half of the 20th century, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that resulted in marriage declining across the board, but declining the most for African Americans. And part of what happened during that period is that black men, for a variety of reasons, hit on hard times, and now we have fewer black men than any time in the last many decades who are able to be husbands who can provide for their families even. And so that's a big part of the story. It's about recent developments. And one question that raises, which is a difficult question for many, is, you know, what do black women owe black men?
Now, you saw the little piece from Ralph Richard Banks where he's on here and he's talking about how because of black men's position in society, it makes them not just valuable, they're not being valuable partners for black women, they're not valuable mates for any race of women. And if you juxtapose that with this study saying that while the majority of them will have sex and sexualize black men, the vast majority, only a small amount of them will actually marry them and raise a family with them. And so that's just a reality. It says of the 800 involved in the study, 8% said they actually dreamed of having a threesome with black men. Now, don't focus on this 800 involved in the study because this is actually not true. They actually surveyed way more, and I'll go into that. It says the fact that there is such a huge disparity between the number of white women who want to have sex with black men versus those who would marry black men shows that many still have some stereotypical view of black men. Black men are seen as sexual masters in the bedroom, but almost complete absent from the corporate bedroom. It says, so when it comes to sex, most white women would prefer black men, but they look toward their own white men when they are looking for a provider. Now, this is key right here because black men, they run with this narrative of, oh, black men are extremely valuable, black men have no problem finding women, but all areas of data says the exact opposite. All areas of data says that black men are not the viable mates. That's just what it says. Now, I want to go into some more information on this study. Now, this is where they break down the information. It says, survey, Rutgers University is the top college for interracial dating, but that's not what we want to go into. Now, it says down here, well, I'll just read it. It says it's not taboo to them, okay? It says interracial match, a dating website named the university the top school in the nation for interracial dating. Now, mind you, they have no problem dating a black man because that's not making it a real commitment. Them dating black men is not being bound to any legal marriage contract. They don't have to share wealth with this person. They don't have to depend on them for being providers, protectors, fathers. Clearly, they already said that they only want to have sex with black men. They don't see them as providers. They don't see them as husbands. They wouldn't want to raise children with them, okay? It says it's not a taboo for them. A public relations specialist representing the site. Rutgers also happen to have a racially diverse population. About 45% of Rutgers student population is white, while about 20% are Asian, 12% are Latino, 10% are African American, 6% are international, and 7% are listed as others, according to the school's website. Stanford University in California earned the second spot, followed by St. John's University in New York and the University in Houston, Texas, okay? Now, it said the dating site examined questionnaires from 15,000 of its users who had an EDU in their emails, were between the ages of 18 and 25, and answered questions about whether they were in or would consider being a part of an interracial relationship. And, okay, clearly, they said that 87.6% of the men and 76.6% of the women said they would consider dating someone from a different race. And this is just the reason why there's disparity is because by and large, women mostly want to stick to the men in their relationship. Actually, I remember when I was in a sociology class and when he polled the class and basically told us to write on the paper the races of people that we were willing to date. And most of the women in the class, regardless of race, said their own race of men, while the men said that it would be a variety of women. So this is just the reality of what it is. But they're giving you these percentages of Rutgers University to break down all of the information of who they're giving these opinions from. And of course, as you see, while a lot of women are actually saying they would consider dating someone of a different race, when it comes to marrying black men, building a life with them, having them after fathers to their children, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. So that's just a reality. But I want to look at something else too. Now, when it comes to desirability, you have to separate sex from everything else, because sexual desirability and desire to be a husband and a wife and a father or whatever, those things should not be confused, because of course if you have sex with somebody, you could end up making that person the father or mother of your child, but that doesn't mean that you want to build with them. Marriage means that you want to build with them. You're getting into a contract, you're mending your lives. So we already know black men and black women are the most sexualized group on the planet, okay? But it's really interesting that they speak to the desirability of black women, but the study shows that actually a higher number of white men want to have sex with black women than white women with black men. But again, remember, they told you black women are the least desirable. The reason why they don't have a high rate of interracial dating isn't because they have race loyalty, it's because other races and men don't want them. Now, when we look at desirability, we have to say that black men and women have the same desirability. We can only see that as sexual, because the reality of it is every other race of people, they value their race. So when it comes to commitments and stuff, they're gonna do it. So even if we reduced desirability down to sex, we could conclude that other races of men desire black women more than white women desire black men. Because now, mind you, they could give that survey to every other races other than white women. They could give it to whatever Hispanics, we can say Asian is not a race, whatever. They could give it to those women. They will probably say the same thing about black men. They will have sex with them, but they do not want them as husbands and fathers. They'll go to their own men to do that. And actually, even though they say that Asian men are the least desired men, that's probably sexually. I'm willing to bet that women would prefer to have an Asian man as a father and a husband than a black man. And that's because Asian men are showing that they're more effective men than black men are. They may not be sexually more effective, but they're showing that in the corporate arena, they are. Now, it says a new study from Oxford University in the United Kingdom has concluded that approximately 98% of white men have fantasized about having sexual relations with black women. The study was conducted by the sociological department. The new study reveals that a whopping 98% of white men dream of having sex with black women, and many already have. 82% of the men surveyed said they would cheat on their white wife or girlfriend to be with a black woman. 67% of the men also said they dreamt of having a threesome with a black woman and their white spouse. So these white men are basically saying, I will compromise my marriage to this white woman if it's in order to have sex with that black woman. They want it so much. And actually, this corresponds with history, because if you look at the plantation, on the plantation, white men were having sex with raping the black slaves more than they were having sex with their white wives. Okay? So, but this is actually showing these white men desire black women way more than white women desire black men. Because in that same thing, you didn't hear them say that white women said they would cheat on their white husbands to have sex with black men. Now, we already know what they would. We already know that they do. But this is a very revealing study. Now, it said, interestingly enough, the same study says only 63% of white men would have a long-term relationship with a black woman, as most believe that black women's attitude was hard to handle. But even if you look at it, black women can change their attitude. Black men are sitting in a system of white supremacy. And even despite black women's attitude, a significantly higher amount of white men said they would want to have a long-term relationship with black men. So actually, the vast majority of white men said they would not only have sex with black women, but they would also have a long-term relationship with them. Only 8% of those white women said that they would have black men as fathers and partners. So if you actually look at that, that tells you something. It says the fact that there is such a huge disparity, there's really not a huge disparity. The disparity is about 30%. Between the number of white men who want to have sex with black women versus those who would marry black women shows that many still have stereotypical views of black women. Black women are sexy beings with body like goddesses, but they have very demanding attitudes and will not do everything a man says. At least that is what most men in the study believe. So when it comes to sex, most white men would prefer a black woman, but they look toward their own women when they are looking for a long-term partner. But actually, if you go by this, the same study says only 60% of white men would have a long-term relationship. That means the majority of the white men in the study said they would have a long-term relationship with them. So I don't know why they're getting that the most of them would prefer a white woman. No, most of them said right here, if 63% of them said that they would have a long-term relationship, that means most of them would have a long-term relationship. Most of them are, or even you can put it as just as many of them are willing to marry a black woman as they are to marry a white woman. But if you look at this data, it actually says black women are not only more attractive to white men sexually than white women are to black men, black women are actually also more desirable as long-term partners to white men than black men are to white women. Because again, keep these in mind as we go back and revisit the black men study. It says 98% of them are sexually attracted to them. 82% said they'll cheat on their wife or girlfriend to be with a black woman. 67% said that they dreamt of having a threesome with a black woman. And then it said, interestingly enough, the same study says 63% of white men would have a long-term relationship with the black woman. Let's go to the one about black men. Now, look, it says 87% of white women dream of having sex with a black man. So that automatically right there says black women are more sexually desirable. I guess if you're comparing it to whiteness, but again, I've never had a problem attracting any race of man. I don't care if it's an Asian that cannot speak English. I've had Asians who could not speak English in ESL trying to talk to me. So already black women are more desirable sexually than black men are to other women. Okay. Then it says, the same study says only 13% of white women said they would marry and raise a family with a black man. So not only is the white woman less sexually attracted to black men than white men are to black women. If you look at history, really that shouldn't be surprising. But also, white women are less willing to marry and raise a family with a black man than white men are with black women, because their rate is 13% of them. 63% of white men said that they would be in a long-term committed relationship with a black woman. Okay? And then it said, of the 800 involved in the study, 8% said they actually dreamed of having a threesome with black men. And I think it was 67% of white men said that they would cheat on their wives, their girlfriends, to have sex with a black woman. And I think it was to the tune of 60-something% that said they wanted to have a threesome with the black woman and their white woman. So when I see this, my question is, who's really the most desirable? Because according to these studies that people are doing in real life, now, of course, they said there were some social media dating app sites where black women were the least desirable on dating apps. Okay, cool, whatever. In real life, it seems like black women are more desirable than black men are. And that corresponds with all of the studies that says it is black women's loyalty to black men that is keeping them single. This is why people keep doing data and saying, black women, you gotta date out, you need to date out, or you will be single. That is why. There's no coincidence why all these studies are saying the same thing. That's unless let's give them the dating app. Let's give them OkCupid, whatever. Let's give them all that. Mind you, all black women and a significant of black women don't even get on these dating sites. But whatever, let's give them that. According to the dating app, black women are least desirable. According to real life studies, black women are more desirable than black men. But you guys let me know what you think. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one. To support this channel, please consider becoming a Patreon member and donating $2 or $5 per month, and you'll get access to exclusive content. You can do that by going to patreon.com and finding me by looking for Cynthia G. You can also follow me on Twitter at BlackDiamond1984 and follow me on Instagram at sweetest_sin84. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. And remember, there will be more content coming soon. But in the meantime, if you would like to buy any of the items, you can go to the Teespring store, and the link is also in the description box. Thank you so much. Again, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and thank you for your support.